How's it going, everybody? This is the Nitty Gritty. My name is Chad. With me is Leonard. And this week, we are going to be talking to you about how Leonard and I spent the weekend. But before we get there, sadly, we have to mention the passing of Scott Hall, who died yesterday, March 14th. He had broken his hip and was getting surgery to repair that, which is a very common thing. But he had multiple heart attacks and potentially more than that. I may remember something possibly with a blood clot, but severe health complications basically during his surgery, and he was put on life support, which was then pulled, and he passed away. It's sad for sure. He had kicked out, so to speak, of all of his demons that he was battling over the years. DDP had helped him, but it felt like we could have gotten more years out of him. To pass during the surgery, a fairly regular routine type surgery like that is very sad. But next week we're going to be doing a full topic on him to properly honor him. But I actually didn't learn of his actual passing. I knew he was on life support and that it was getting pulled, but I didn't learn about his passing until Raw started. Because Raw had started with the dates up on the Titantron. But Leonard, what do you think?
I can't say I was ever really a big fan of Scott Hall's, but he's someone that I think, in retrospect, as the internet wrestling community expanded, and this is pretty much after his main wrestling career was over in the early aughts, that I think people learned to really respect him and kind of appreciate him. He often shows up on lists of the best wrestlers who were never a world champion. As a kid, I watched AWA wrestling on ESPN, but I don't remember Scott Hall, even though he was around during that period. I'm not sure how much he figured in on that. What I would be interested in, I might do over the weekend, is watch some tag team stuff of Hall and Kurt Hennig from that time period, because I don't think I've ever seen any of that. I'd be interested in watching it. And then, of course, I knew he was the Diamond Stud in WCW. Did not put really any impression on me. I would say the first time I really kind of noticed Scott Hall was in the early 90s when he was Razor Ramon. And I remember myself and a friend of mine in middle school would do bad Razor Ramon impressions back and forth to each other. And last night, as a tribute to him, I watched the ladder match between him and Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 10. Great match just in and of itself, but also set the template for the ladder match going forward from that point. He had some great matches and feuds as Razor Ramon, and of course he launched the NWO. He was the first man. Forget Hogan as the third man. Hall was the first man of the NWO, and just the historicness of that. Like you said, I think it's fantastic that he managed to kind of straighten his life out toward the past couple of years. Working with Diamond Dallas Page, and I know he's been trying to help his son get in the business and things of that nature. And he got into the WWE Hall of Fame twice as himself with the NWO. So I think it's kind of nice that even though he didn't pass anymore, 63 is young, and in a tragic way because of complications from surgery, that I think he probably had a good understanding of how much fans loved him and appreciated him and where his place in the business was. And he did get himself straightened up. So he went out on a high note, I would say.
Right.
It was good to see. And another thing, too, I'd like to mention is that I know a lot of people in the business said Scott Hall had a great mind for it, but because of the substance abuse problems, and this came up with Jake Roberts, too, wasn't necessarily able to capitalize on that. I know a story that supposedly back when Shawn Michaels was still using the teardrop suplex as his finisher, he wanted something else. And he and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall were driving somewhere, and Hall was in the back seat. And they were talking it out, and Hall just said, "I don't know, man. Like, your super kick's your best move." And Michaels was like, "Well, yeah, I guess it is, but nobody used the kick for a finisher, nobody, except for our good buddy Ranger Ross." But supposedly Michael started using the super kick as a finisher because of Hall's suggestion, and that became iconic not only for him, but the super kick is a move that everyone uses today. That's a move just everyone has in their back pocket. So I was very, very saddened to hear about Hall's passing, and also too, I think it was very great not only from wrestlers, but I saw online just a lot of fans being kind of heartbroken and saddened and giving their best wishes to the family, and that was nice to see as well. Sometimes you don't know how much someone's appreciated until they're gone. And maybe for me that was that way again. I think Scott probably felt that the past couple of years, but for me it was really interesting to see all the outpourings of support for him when it was announced.
This week we are going to be talking about our weekend. I visited Chillicothe, Ohio.
Yes.
And there was a fan fest and a show from, I believe, World Classic Big Time Wrestling. Is that right?
World Classic Professional Big Time Wrestling.
Oh, well, that is quite the name of a wrestling company.
Yes.
So what would that be? WCP.
BTW.
BTW would roll off the tongue.
Yes.
That's my suggestion to Bobby Fulton and his sons, who run the organization.
I believe there's already another company called Big Time Wrestling. So that's probably why their name's a little bit longer. But yes, they've been running shows at least since the early 90s in the central and southeastern Ohio wrestling. I've been to several of those shows. Again, it's ran by Bobby Fulton and his sons. And they put on, family-friendly, traditional, kind of classic type shows. And I know I talked about on the program having been the one they did in Circleville a few years ago. And they were planning a big show in Fan Fest in March of 2020 that got shut down because of COVID. It was going to be like the week after everything got shut down here in Ohio. And so this was sort of them making up for that show.
So, yes, I do not live in the area that Leonard lives. So it is quite the drive for me. And what an entertaining drive it is. As Leonard can attest, driving through Ohio doesn't offer much scenic views. Is that fair to say, Leonard? I don't want to insult your homeland, but...
at least the day you came in, there was a lot of snow.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, it did snow. But yeah, Leonard and I don't get to hang out in person very much, but it was great to go and visit him and his friends. And anytime I can go to a wrestling convention and or a wrestling show, I will always jump at that chance. So I was happy to make the trek out there. It was at Unioto High School. Did I say that correctly?
I believe that's correct. It's Union and Scioto, which are counties right there, and they kind of blended them together when they joined the school districts or something like that.
That was two guys in a room who couldn't compromise, and they're just like, combine the names. Anyway, but yes, it was at the high school, and Leonard and I and his friends, we visited the Fan Fest portion first, which had a long list of wrestling talent that you could get their autographs or get your picture taken with them. They had vendors and places for wrestling nerds like ourselves to shop and buy things. And we thank the high school for packing it into a very little cafeteria that all the hundreds of us were all wedged in there. And most of the people were there, at least initially, to meet Kevin Nash. And what's ironic that we were there with Kevin Nash, considering a couple days later he was, going to have some sad news. But I don't know how much he knew about that situation then.
From tweets that Nash put out, I would guess that he was probably informed about what was happening to Scott soon after he left.
Yeah.
From the timing I saw.
Right. Well, we both wanted to visit certain people. Anybody that's been to any convention, whether it be wrestling or movies, knows that the bigger the star, the heavier the price tag they carry with them. And one of the people that I wanted to meet the most was Kurt Angle. And Leonard and I were fortunate enough to catch the line with friends of the show, Ronnie and Dan, right when it started. So we were able to meet Kurt Angle right away, which was a very cool thing, right, Leonard?
Yes. Now it should be mentioned that Kurt was in a gymnasium by himself.
Right. Yeah.
Away from everybody else. It was a connected middle school to the high school. And as soon as they announced that, we booked over there. And it was a good thing we did, because when we got out, the line was extended all the way back to basically
through the hallways of the school.
Through the hallways of the school back to the cafeteria where the other people were at. Kurt was, very polite. I mean, we didn't get really a chance to talk to him too much because, again, there were so many people there. But he's very polite when we got the pictures with him, and seemed very appreciative of us being there. And and just to say it, I think we were both, well, all four of us, including Dan and Ronnie, were kind of surprised by Kurt's appearance. He's had a long career, and it seems like it's catching up to him.
Yeah, and it goes without saying how, wrestling fans don't always talk about this, but how thankful we are for some of the sacrifices, some of the things that these people put their bodies through on a regular basis. And Kurt Angle obviously did so much throughout the years to entertain fans. And, I revisit his matches all the time, and his lifestyle and some of the mistakes that he made over the years have definitely caught up with him. He looks like he has trouble getting around. And when he does get around, he doesn't look like he's very comfortable. That's about as broadly I can describe it without getting specific, since I'm obviously not a doctor.
No.
But yeah, it was great to meet him. He was very polite. And obviously he has a podcast out there, which I recommend. But yeah, I mean, Kurt has looked better. But he was in a room all by himself, which was interesting considering how packed the other room was. Mm-hmm. But I will say that getting into the high school was pretty streamlined. Like, there was a long line, everybody wanted to get in, but it moved fairly quickly. Yeah. And I had no complaints there. I'm just glad that the COVID numbers are down.
Yes. Here in Ohio, we're doing well. They've recently lifted our mask mandates. I think that they weren't ready for the amount of people that they got.
Right.
They announced later on Facebook that they had, for the show that night, and you would see most of those people were at the Fan Fest at some point, more than 3,000 people. Yeah. And they turned away 500 at the door just because they didn't have room. Right. So I think that just speaks to the fact that they just weren't necessarily, they didn't think it was going to be as much as it was. As you mentioned, Kevin Nash had a really long line. Enzo had a long line, surprisingly.
Yeah. And you know what? Enzo is still doing his same shtick. So if you think that, we caught a glimpse of like a new or improved or changed Enzo, you didn't miss it. He is the same Enzo who does the same shtick.
And everybody was hot for it, and everybody chanted along.
Right. And wrestling fans love chants, and they have not forgotten that one.
No, but I was saying, with those two, if you would have took those two lines out, I think it would have been a little more
They fluid. Could have easily put those three in the gym, and those lines would not have conflicted with each other. They would have run into each other, and everybody would have been a lot more comfortable.
Right, yeah. You put one on one, you give them each a side of the gym and let people come in. I think that probably would have helped.
I felt bad for people like Ron Simmons and some of the people that were in the center aisle, because that's where Kevin Nash's line was filtering through, and you couldn't get into that aisle to do anything else unless you were waiting in line for Kevin Nash.
Yeah, I did get a picture with Mr. Hughes, who was in that center aisle, but he was on the end.
Yeah, you got to talk about Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Hughes, I got Mr. Hughes' autograph. Well, for three reasons. One, he was pretty cheap. Let's be honest. And two, he was in gimmick. He was dressed in the white shirt with the suspenders and everything. And three, he had an urn with him.
Yeah.
So for those who know, when he was in WWF briefly, he feuded with The Undertaker and stole The Undertaker's urn. And so that's why he had an urn with him.
And we all know that it's the legit original urn.
Oh, it has to be. You know, I don't know. I don't know if the Undertaker ever won it back on television. I would have to research that.
Yeah.
That would be great if they never resolved that, and he can just say, you know, technically he still has rights to the urn.
So I feel like since Jim Cornette talked about the price of cameos, we could talk about the price of some of these talents. So
Sure.
how much was Mr. Hughes to get?
So
I don't even know what all you got. I know you got a photo. Is it just the photo that you got?
I just got the photo. So Hughes was $20 for a photo.
Okay.
And a photo and autograph would have been $30.
Okay.
So and Kurt Angle was what? Was $40?
He was $40 for just the photo op.
Just the photo.
It would have been
Photo
$60.
and autograph would have been $60.
But you know what? Like, at least when we were there, they were just getting his photos out.
Yes.
When we
were there, he didn't have anything setting out, so it would have been like an autograph on a napkin or something.
Right. But yeah, so Kurt was 40, and I forget off the top of my head. So one of the things that I was looking forward to were some of the group photo ops. I was, some of the Four Horsemen were there. I had thought about that. Originally, it was supposed to be $70. Then the guy made an announcement that it moved up to $100. So I was like, well, I'm not paying $100 if Arn and Rick are not in this picture. And then it got moved back down to 70 again. So somebody was playing fast and loose with the amounts. I blame Tully. He just got fired from FTR on AEW. Yeah. So I feel like he was trying to get more cash.
Yeah, it was Tully Blanchard, Barry Windham, and J.J. Dillon were the three horsemen that were there.
Yeah.
And, one thing, too, even though, I didn't get a lot of, say, autographs and pictures. The only pictures I got was with Mr. Hughes and Kurt Angle. But just to be in the room and to kind of see those guys and what they look like, to say, hey, I was in a room with them, I got to see them, was really neat. So, being a Horseman fan, just the fact that we got to walk by and see Barry Windham and see Dillon and Blanchard was really, really cool.
Absolutely.
Just to see all those people.
Absolutely. And they did an NWO photo op later in the day with Scott Steiner and Buff Bagwell and Kevin Nash. And am I missing one person?
No, I think those were the three that were there from the NWO.
And so I had been debating on whether or not I was going to get a Horseman one or I was going to get a photo with the Steiner brothers. Both Rick and Scott were there. But initially they were separated and then they moved closer together so that they could do photo ops together. And the story of the day, Leonard, was that I got fleeced by Scott Steiner.
Yes.
And so it was supposed to be $60. That was supposed to be the price to get just a photo op with the two brothers. And when I got up there, he told me it was $80. So not wanting to be, a douche, I decided to pay the $80. And get the picture, which I'm glad I got overall. Not a big deal. I'm not going to cry over that. The wife was not pleased when she heard that. She was legit the shoot, not pleased.
Don't tell her.
Well, too late for that.
Okay.
But yeah. But I'm glad that I got the photos that I did. Is there anybody that you wish you would have gotten, Leonard?
Oh, now, if the room was a little looser, I might have gotten a few more. I think.
Yeah. So let's do some of the people that were there that we didn't get. Ron Simmons.
Yeah, Ron Simmons is one I might have gotten a picture with if he was easier to get to.
Greg Valentine was there with the Intercontinental belt. I might have.
Kevin Sullivan. I thought about getting a Sullivan. Of course, Bobby Fulton was there with his brother Jackie Fulton, who were the second version of the Fantastics. Sam Houston, who we talked about before. We had a video with him.
The guy dressed up as Bushwhacker Luke. That was not Bushwhacker Luke. We haven't talked about this yet. Who wasn't there at all?
There's a few people that didn't show up. Yeah, the table was set up, like the name was on the table, and there was a guy sitting there. Now, the table was next to Enzo. The New Age Outlaws were there, plus the Gun Club. So Billy Gunn's kids were there. as well. And oddly enough, I don't know if you saw this. Ronnie sent this to me. They went to Lexington, Kentucky the same night and worked a show.
Oh, wow.
And so they left the Fan Fest, drove down to Lexington, and they won like all the company's belts. Like they won the tag belts, and Billy won the company belt. Because I'm assuming they were like, hey, if we're driving all the way from Chillicothe to Lexington, you're paying us. I'm not. That's at least a 3-hour drive, probably 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Because it would take them a while to get to an interstate from Chillicothe.
Just a little bit. Yeah. We had failed to mention that Chillicothe is not an urban, area of Ohio.
It is an hour south of Columbus. And it's where Bobby Fulton is from. Bobby Fulton is originally from Chillicothe. Hence why they're based out of Chillicothe and run a bunch of shows there. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was there.
Yeah, I didn't even get a chance. I didn't even get a look at Ricky.
I got a brief look at Ricky. Jimmy Wang Yang. I didn't see him, but supposedly
who was with me? I think it was Ronnie or Dan. Mm-hmm. Oh no, it was Dan, because when we went back in to get one of our purchases, we saw him there, and I was like, "Hey, look, But yeah, we did spot him at the very end.
Yeah, I did not see him, and he had Jazzy Yang with him, who I'm not sure who Jazzy is, but apparently
that is.
Yeah, the Hustler Rip Rogers was there. Bobby Blaze was there that worked Smoky Mountain. Big John, who was the bodyguard for Bret Michaels on the Bret Michaels reality show.
Not Big Josh, who passed away.
No. I think Buff Bagwell. We mentioned Buff Bagwell because he was part of the NWO. I think that was mainly it. I've got their list pulled up here, and like we said, there was a few people who unfortunately didn't show that were scheduled, and that could have been different things. Weather being one. Big Vito was not there as well, and we were actually told that Big Vito's wife is ill, so the best for her if that is true.
Skull Von Crush, he was listed as.
Yes, which I believe was what he had worked at on the end.
If you're a wrestler or a member of a power metal band as well.
Yes.
So there was a lot of cool things to buy if you were there as well. Like they had T-shirts and posters and artwork, and a lot of different action figures, that kind of thing. If you like getting stuff to hang on your wall, that's always a good thing. I got a Sting poster that will be in back of me at some point down the road once I get it framed. And Dan and I got Hall of Fame rings, replica Hall of Fame rings. Why? Because fuck you, that's why.
Because they were 2 for $30, that's why.
2 for $30. Yeah, and you know what? They are absolutely, they're probably 4 or 5 carat diamonds, right, Leonard?
Oh yeah, at least. I mean, it was just the fact that the guy had buckets of them, like he was overstocked. That's why they were so cheap.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this guy also too, we should say, had a bunch of different belts. Yeah. And he also had custom plates for belts. So if you had a belt, you could make I know he had Ric Flair, Charlotte Flair.
See, if I'm going to get a custom belt, though, I'd want the custom plate to be describing me.
Yes, you would think. But he also had custom plates along with the different belts. And it should be mentioned that one belt he had was, I assume they got it off this guy, it was a 4 Horsemen belt. And they also had a raffle for that belt.
That was pretty sweet looking. It was in the shape of the big gold belt that everybody remembers Ric Flair having most of the time. But it had the 4 Horsemen logo in the center of it, kind of the way you would see the NWO logo, just not spray painted. It looked really nice. That would have been cool to have. Leonard and I was taking it from the guy who won it, but we elected not to, right, Leonard?
Yeah, yes. It was signed by Blanchard, Dillon, and Wyndham. Yep. And no, we did not win that. There was also a 50-50. It was we didn't win. But altogether, they announced that the Band Boosters was running both these raffles. They earned more than $9,000.
Nice. That's a good thing.
Oh, yes. And they also had a NWO seat cushion or something like that was signed.
When the guy turned it around, it looked like it was just a picture on a canvas.
Oh, okay. I thought
I
it looked
could be
kind of
wrong.
like
I
a
thought it
cushion.
was a seat cushion as well,
Yeah, okay.
but
But anyway, that was signed, and they were raffling that off as well. We didn't get any raffle tickets for that one, but that was also would have been neat to have.
we got it. They had next time they got to be more creative with the swag that they're raffling off. They got to do a lot more items and like maybe more random items. Like this is Big Boss Man's genuine nightstick, or this is one of Hacksaw's 2x4s.
Well, next time, and we'll get to this. They're going to have another show on April 9th, and they're going to have Sabu and Rob Van Dam there. So maybe they can have like cookie sheets and stop signs. And
I hope they allow people to bring their own stuff. They won't, but that would be cool.
No, that's too dangerous. Bring your own weapons.
But I also got a Hogan hat for all the Hogan fans out there who also did a tribute to Scott Hall. Just basically, for all the people that say Hogan exaggerates and lies, he said that Scott Hall resurrected his career. So, there you go for those who like to bag on Hogan sometimes. But anyway, the Fan Fest part was a lot of fun. I could have spent a lot more money easily. I probably spent more than I should have, but the wife wasn't there, so that's what happens, right, Leonard?
Yes, and give your wife all my love, and I hope she's not mad at me for
shoot, she's mad at you. She's mad at me.
Yeah, well, I was the instigator. I was the one that got you down there.
But so the Fan Fest part, once that was done, then everybody was going to file into another room to basically, I guess, where the pep rallies and stuff might be. But the gymnasium. Maybe,
it was
the high school gymnasium, and then Kurt Angle was in the middle school gymnasium.
Yes, Kurt Angle. This was in the high school gym, is where they held the actual show that night. So the Fan Fest was 1 to 6. They took a bit of a break, and then the show was at 6:30.
Right, and the show was about what you would expect from an indie show. It's not one of those indie shows that you might hear of Matt Cardona being on, or it's nothing really like that. This is just a kind of a good, fun indie wrestling show with some people that and some local people that some of the locals would know. It was good for me to get some of the faces to the names that Leonard has mentioned on here from the Ohio indie scene, which was good. But it was overall, it was a fun show. I don't know if there's any matches on there that Meltzer would rate 5 or 6 stars, but that's not why you go to shows like this.
No.
But Leonard, why don't you go through some of the matches on the card? Well, sure. I can tell you what happened first off. First off, you had Kurt Angle and Kevin Nash in the ring presenting a plaque to a person who served in the military, did multiple tours, and that was certainly well deserved and good to see. Then after Nash and Kurt Angle did their thing, then the card started. So.
Yeah, and Nash was also given a plaque for his military service, which we all said we didn't know that Nash had served, but apparently he did. So hats off to him there.
What I've heard is that when he served, he did jackknife power bombs to the enemy. Right, Leonard?
Right. That's how we won Operation Desert Storm. So the first match of the night, I have the card here. It was what they call a tiger weight division match, and I'm not sure what a tiger weight.
So wait, you didn't look up what tiger weight division was?
No, I did not look that up.
Oh man, we got to do that.
My guess is it's probably around cruiser or just above cruiserweight. It might be WCW old school cruiser, like up to 225.
Cruiserweight is really a division. It's basically just non-heavyweight people.
Yes, non-heavyweight people. But this match was live wire Sean Casey defeating the Rocket Josh Benson. Now, Benson I hadn't seen before. Casey actually had a cup of coffee with WCW and the WWF in the mid 1990s. So he had wrestled on television and is kind of a staple of the Ohio scene for a really long time. But you can tell still in good shape for his age and a classically trained worker.
Benson reminded me a little bit of Baron Corbin in NXT.
Okay.
A little bit with the hair and just the overall swagger. Real quick, Leonard, before you move on with the card, it appears that tiger weight is just something that they made up because upon researching this, that the Google basically just gave me the weight of actual tigers. So,
yep, it's because they didn't want to call it cruiserweight. They want to do something else, I guess. But the second match of the night was USA versus Russia, and we all said this should have been a flag match, but it was not. It was a standard match, and it was the Iron Russian with his manager David Barnabas Spector, which is a great name.
He was trying to be somebody more famous, clearly.
He was trying to be James Mitchell. I got a lot of James Mitchell vibes off of him. And the Iron Russian won. He beat Tyler the High Flyer Robinson. He is someone, Robinson, that I've seen the Iron Russian too. Of course, the Iron Russian could be someone else I've seen underneath that mask as well. We're unsure. But Robinson, I've seen it as well. Good young indie talent. He's only been on the scene maybe a couple of years. But you know, that
Leonard,
was,
how are you not mentioning that the Iron Russian came out to Ivan Drago's theme music?
I forgot that, but that was a great touch. I know you love that touch.
I did love that touch, absolutely.
Then for the vacant Queen of the Ring Championship, it was
here we go. This is my favorite match of the night, by the way.
It was Big Mama defeating Riley Matthews. So like imagine Dewdrop against AJ Lee. Like that probably
well, yeah. I would say more like Dewdrop versus somebody like Dakota Kai or Kaylee Ray, one of those two. Like that's about the body frame that you're dealing with on both ends. But I'm all about Big Mama. I hope she lands at a company sometime soon.
Yes, Big Mama was actually decent and fun, and she finished with what was a
big splash off of the ropes.
yes, off the ropes. This totally squashed Riley Matthews. Now, this was supposed to have been Big Mama versus Amber Nova, but Amber Nova wasn't there for whatever reason. I know that she had wrestled some on TNA and I think some in AEW the past year. So, but I was actually interested in seeing Amber Nova because I had seen her on television. So after that, we had I love how they list. I'm reading the card, of course, from their site. The legend that is Sam Houston. That's how they have him listed. The legend that is Sam Houston pinned the show Robbie Superstar. Robbie Starr is a guy that I've seen. I told Chad he's been some of the best indie matches I've seen in Ohio. The best match I probably ever saw live was Robbie Starr and Matt Mason against a team known as the Heat Seekers. It was a TLC match. It's probably the best match I've ever seen live. But Robbie's a seasoned pro, and usually when they do shows like this and Robbie's on the card, originally he was going to wrestle Bushwhacker Luke.
Right.
But Robbie will sometimes get the guy that maybe you need to protect a little. Right. Because of his age or whatever. And, when we did our Sam Houston show, I talked about how I saw Sam and I thought he looked better today than he did back in the day, and how I thought he worked better than he did back in the day. And so Chad, I'll ask you, what did you think of Sam Houston in this bout and this match overall?
I would say, honestly, I think he's just as good now as he was then. That's what I would say. Better? I don't know. It's tough to say. Like, as you said, he was clearly protected a little bit, but not in a bad or negative way. It was basically just due to probably age and cardio type stuff. But I thought he was just as good today as some of the clips that we researched when we did our show on him. And we have talked about this later, but the people in front of us had, Robbie t-shirts on, which, I don't know if they were family members of his or they somehow just got his merch somewhere. It certainly wasn't being sold there.
No, it's possible. I know I've been to other shows where family and friends of his have been to, but he's been around long enough that he does have merch. So it's possible. For
an indie guy, he's clearly, knows his way around the ring. And it was fun. It was fun to see him. So.
And he did a moonsault, which I know impressed you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you didn't expect that, but based on his size, he's like a bulkier dude, kind of like, I don't know, animal type body frame. But yeah.
Next we had what they billed as a WCW grudge match. It was Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner beating Andrew Anderson, who I don't believe he ever wrestled for WCW, but he was managed by Kevin Sullivan, and he
Right.
was using the Purple Haze gimmick. So
Right.
Kevin Sullivan in Florida in the early 80s took Mark Lewin and turned him into the Purple Haze. So this was Sullivan bequeathing the Purple Haze gimmick to Andy Anderson. Now, oddly enough, Dan and I have been to several conventions where we've seen Andy Anderson,
Okay.
but we've never seen him wrestle. This was the first time we've ever actually seen him wrestle. So it was a short match, and I think that
Scott Hall is just doing this now for the money, like not just based on the experience I had with him at the Fan Fest, but like I mean he doesn't move around very well in the ring now. I mean he didn't when we mentioned the Triple H Scott Steiner feud from all those years ago, but he really doesn't move around very well now, and I guess it's just to pick up a few bucks, but it was a very short match and for good reason.
The next we had the Ohio State Tag Team Championship match, which was the Superman, Onyx, and Shark Boy billed as the Professional Wrestling's Justice League, because I don't think you can just call them the Justice League. DC will come out.
Yes.
And they defeated the Pittsburgh franchise, Shane Douglas, and his right-hand man, Mr. Pittsburgh Steeler number 7.
Right, which, legend, should be in the Hall of Fame this year.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I would say 5. In order, I would go 5, 4, 6, 7, 1, 2, probably. Of all the Steelers,
right,
that are out there. But this was a match in which the champs, the Justice League, retained their titles, and Shane Douglas was not happy with the Pittsburgh Steelers taking the loss for the team there.
What do you think, Leonard, about Shane Douglas? Do you think that there's maybe I don't know, injuries that maybe prevent him from doing too much in the ring? Because as we talked about, he wasn't doing too much.
No, I think it was injuries and age. I think it's injuries and age, and it should be mentioned too that Douglas has wrestled for Bobby Fulton's promotion for quite a while, and there's actually a long, not seen by many people on one, feud between Shane Douglas and Bobby Fulton. And in fact, my niece Madison, who I used to take the matches when she was younger, her favorite match she ever saw was a hardcore match between Bobby Fulton and Shane Douglas because they used a trash can.
Nice.
Yes.
I would have loved to have seen a trash can pulled out, but maybe not in high school. I don't think that would have happened.
Yes. But anyway, there was actually a moment where Bobby Fulton's this is the next match, so we'll talk about this. The next match was Michigan versus Ohio State. So Bobby Fulton's brother, and I don't know if that's a kayfabe brother, again, something we would need to look up. but Jackie Fulton, who was in the second version of the Fantastics with Bobby, wrestled amazing Nate Matson, who I've seen a couple times, and he's kind of more of a well-known indie guy. I think he's had a cup of coffee here and there with some lower promotions on TV.
This was a break match.
Yes. There was no intermission, which was odd. Usually most of the shows I go to do 3 or 4, have an intermission, and then we'll finish up with their 3 or 4 big ones at the end. So this was the one where a lot of people, myself and you included, went to the bathroom, came back. But the end of it had the Iron Russian and Robbie Starr jumping Jackie Fulton at the end of it, and then Shane Douglas came out for the save. Right. And Shane Douglas turned face.
A rare face turn for Shane Douglas.
And aligned himself with the Fulton family.
Right.
So where that will go.
He turns on them at the April 9th show.
That will probably be what will happen. I would put money on that. We'll see. And then the main event was Wildfire Tommy Rich and the realest guy in the room, Enzo, little N, big Z, little O, is how he's spelling it these days.
Right.
Against Total Protection, Mr. Hughes, and the Loaded Gun, Chris Cannon. And we did not hear Cannon's name, so we had no idea who that guy was.
Pretty sure Chris Cannon was the name of an adult film star back in the day.
Okay, well, so I don't think it was the same.
If that wrestling talent is doing that on purpose, then goddamn, I salute you. But they didn't really say his name, so
yes,
we didn't know that at the time. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, this could be. But Mr. Hughes cut a promo, which I don't think I can repeat what Mr. Hughes said in the promo. I probably should not.
Yeah, maybe.
But I'll just say, and here's another thing too, and I'm sure Chad will, if he hasn't already, will throw up the picture of me with Mr. Hughes. He's lost weight. He looks great.
That's true. We didn't mention that, but yeah, he's in good health.
The promo he cut, despite the language, was pretty good. Was funny. I was thinking, if he looked this good and talked this well 20, 25 years ago, he probably would have got further up the card than he did.
You know what? The fact that he was never even given, maybe he was, and I just don't know the clip, but like the fact that he was never given a lot of time on the mic now, I would say, is a bit of a crime, because he clearly has the ability to talk and get people riled up, because he did that very quickly.
Yeah, he did. It was a great promo. We were all loving it. Of course, Enzo, as you mentioned, did his usual shtick.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what originally I know it was going to be Hughes and Big Vito who didn't show up against. It was going to be Enzo and Scott Steiner, and then Steiner got moved. So Tommy Rich, I don't believe, was scheduled to wrestle. My guess is that Tommy agreed to be part of this. And again, nothing against Tommy Rich. I've met Tommy Rich before, got pictures of Tommy Rich, love Tommy Rich. When we talk about protecting, this was definitely a match where Mr. Hughes was in there and protected Tommy, and where Enzo did most of the heavy lifting in the match to protect Tommy.
Right.
And it was hilarious when it first came out. Enzo said, "Tommy Rich doesn't know who I am."
And then he like capitalized on it, saying like, "No, legit, he has no idea who I am," which is funny because it's probably true. How much wrestling does Tommy Rich probably watch these days? Probably not.
Yeah. No. But here's one thing I would say about Enzo is that he seemed happy to be there. Like he enjoyed meeting the people. He enjoyed cutting the promo. He enjoyed being in that ring. He really did his best to make that main event as good as he could make it.
No, I will agree with you there. I mean, for all the rumors and backstage issues that we've heard about over the years with Enzo, he did seem like he was glad to be there. He was committed to what he was doing in the Fan Fest and in the show itself. And not everybody was. Like, for example, as excited I was to meet the Steiner brothers, they really didn't look super enthused. Would that be a way to put it there, Leonard?
That would be a nice way to put it. And here's the thing, like a hindsight thing, like I wish I would have got Enzo now because of how cool Enzo was.
Right.
And how much he enjoyed being there. One thing they do that I think is great is they allow you to book pictures and autographs ahead of time, which I think is great.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm kind of one of those people. Like I never would have got Mr. Hughes unless I got there and saw what he was doing.
You were excited for the urn. Let's be honest.
I was excited for the urn. And I told him that.
And the price.
When I didn't tell him about the price, but I told him. But I did tell him when I went to him. I said, "Hey, I see all these people here, and I'm thinking, who do I want to get a picture with?" And I saw you had the urn, and I had to get a picture. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you do," or something like that. he was very happy about that. And again, we asked him too, "You're wrestling tonight, right?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to try."
That's the thing. Like he seemed like a really nice guy in real life, which is funny because all he's ever played is this heel who, kind of gives a grimace.
Yeah, grimace, a mean mug kind of guy. Always worked with bodyguards a lot. That type of deal. But he seemed really, really cool.
Like, why did they have? Well, Kevin Nash doesn't really wrestle, but they could have had those two wrestle, and they could have called them bodyguards. It writes itself.
Just make them the tag team. Just have Hughes do all the work, and Nash can come at the end, and not even Jackknife, just Big Buddha guy, just big Buddha guy,
or
Big Buddha Enzo.
Or like our last episode, he could do his foot choke in the corner.
Yeah, just do the foot choke in the corner. He could probably still get up for that.
Yeah.
Well, to mention, and Chad, unfortunately, I don't think is going to come in for this one, but World Classic Professional Big Time Wrestling is having another show on April 9th in Chillicothe, but at a different high school. Hopefully, maybe a bit of a bigger high school. But this is called Lightning Strikes Twice, which is a great name for a show. It's celebrating 45 years of big time wrestling in Ohio. Hold
on, Leonard. World Classic Professional.
Big time wrestling in Ohio. So they're doing the same thing, a fan fest and then a show. But announced so far is Rob Van Dam, Sergeant Slaughter, Jim Duggan, the Rock and Roll Express, the Fantastics of Bobby and Jackie Fulton again, Two Cold Scorpio, Sabu, Bill Alfonso, Coco Beware, Gangrel, Brian Pillman Jr., and shortly before coming on air, they announced Tony Atlas.
Nice.
Yeah. So I haven't heard back from Dan yet, but even if Dan isn't able to go, I'm going to just go by myself because there's a few people there.
No joke. I would, if it was closer, I would love to go. I would absolutely be there. If only to have another chance at getting a belt, because if there's anything that would make my wife angrier, it would be if I purchased a replica belt, which I thought about doing because they're actually more expensive online if you buy them than they were there. All that guy's belts were $300 each, which might sound like a lot of money, but if you look for a big gold online right now, it'll be easily between $500 and $700 depending on where you get it from.
And then you got shipping and handling, all that in there. So
right.
And these were all nice looking belts too. So
yeah.
I would say that. So and they have announced the main event will be Rob Van Dam versus Two Cold Scorpio with Bill Alfonso as the referee.
That should be fun. Yeah. I mean, hey, at a high school, who knows what they're going to do? Yeah. I don't know what Rob Van Dam can do these days.
Well, last I knew he was in Impact, and he was had a valet. I don't remember her name, but it was in like a lovey-dovey angle with this woman who was his valet. But again, that was a couple years ago. I haven't watched Impact for a while, but I believe Rob Van Dam is still around, and so is Dreamer Rhino. I think they're all still in Impact, or at one point. So, but anyway, yeah, I mean, Rob's older and is putting a little weight, but last I saw, he could still put on a match. So
I know Rhino was running for office at one point. I don't know if that ever panned out for him.
Yeah, but him and Scorpio could still be decent. I don't know how many of the other guys are going to work. I've seen Slaughter, Duggan. I've seen Morton, but I've never seen Gibson.
That's fine. Well, they'll probably work together, you would think.
I would think they would be together, and I would think they would probably – and they're still working, so I would assume they would do a match on the card against someone. So that would be really neat to see. RVD and Sabu, I'm really excited for. I would guess that they would probably do a photo op together. Have to see how much that would be. And Coco Beware, I might get. I think Coco is awesome. Oh, and Brian Pillman Jr. I've met and talked with before, and he was very cool when I took him a few years ago.
Did you get the bag, Leonard, that we missed?
And no, I got the 2 pictures, but I don't think I bought anything else there. I know you guys. I know Dan got some action figures and some different things. Dan's a big action figure collector,
right?
And there were some of the posters, kind of what you got, that were done like in a comic book style that I thought were really cool. And I might grab a couple of those next time I go in April. But that's one thing that kind of soured me on not soured me, but because of how crowded it was, I really didn't get an opportunity to really kind of look at things and get into things too. So with it being less crowded, I probably would have got maybe a couple more autographs or maybe got some other stuff. But
but no, it was a fun time. If people out there have these types of shows in their area, they should absolutely go check them out. Regardless of what company it is, the indie scene definitely needs all the help that it can get. And plus, it's a lot of fun. It gets you out of the house, and it gets you around people that like the same thing you do, which for some people might not be an issue. For me, all the people that like wrestling are hundreds of miles away. So.
Yeah. And we wound up talking to a couple of people. The guy who was behind us in line at Kurt Angle wound up sitting in front of us
at the show, right?
Yeah. And we talked to him a little bit, and he was cool to talk to. And just, as you're there and you're in line and you're waiting with people, or you see different people looking at the same thing that you're looking at, you wind up talking to them. And I've met several people that I don't know them by name, but we see each other at different shows, and we're like, "Oh, hey, good to see you again." You know, that type of thing. So that's a cool thing to do.
Well, that's a good community to have then.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I said, let us know if you were there and you listened to our show. Maybe you missed our booth. We didn't have a booth. But
no.
Maybe next time. If they agree to have a Nitty Gritty booth at the April 9th show, I will make it down for that.
I'll give Bobby Fulton a call, see what we can work out.
Or the Gambler. Maybe he will show up.
If the gambler shows up, then I think I'll hold you to that. I think you need to come back.
Yeah, I'll definitely be there because I feel like if I talk to him in person, we can get him to do something for us.
Yes.
But anyway, so thank you for joining us this week. Please let us know what you think of our show in the comments. Let us know about any of your Fan Fest stories or any indie stories or any indie shows that you were at that you might find interesting. Check us out on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify. And for Leonard, my name is Chad, and Alexa will see you out.